was in a very serious car accident. And we pray for Mrs. Van Mater, and Lord, just give the doctors wisdom and understanding and be able to help her through this time. Also, the bailiff at our county courthouse unexpectedly passing last week. We pray for the Good family and for their loss, and just watch over them and protect them. Again, may you guide us, direct us, and lead us. We pray in thy name. Amen.
Thank you. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to call the July 25th, 2017 Washington County Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. With that, I'd like to ask for the approval of the July 18th minutes of 2017, and I'd like to ask Commissioner Kiefer or Barr to provide that motion.
I move to approve the minutes of last week.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the July 18th minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Thank you. Commissioners' reports and comments. Commissioner Kiefer?
Nothing today.
Commissioner Barr?
Yeah, 2 items. Don't want to sound like bragging, but did have the opportunity not only but twice last week to be with Governor Hogan. The first happened to be at the Tall's Crab Feed down on the Eastern Shore, and if you're in not only local but state politics, it's the who's who and where's where to be in mid-July, and ran down and participated in that. Obviously, still very much connected with Maryland Association of Counties, and kind of worked the crowd on behalf of MACO, and then again had the pleasure on Friday evening to be with Governor Hogan at the Orioles game, and had time to share. And again, that was a MACO once a year event, and did participate in that. And don't want to dwell on it too much, but obviously President Kevin Kamenetz of MACO, because of political circumstances, finds it difficult to be at some of those things. So President-elect and immediate past president are carrying some of those duties. So going forward, I guess, looking for everyone's participation at the MACO Summer Conference, which is coming up here in 2 or 3 weeks. So thank you.
Who won?
Unfortunately, the Orioles did not.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just have a question there concerning the new Walmart going in out there, Sharpsburg Pike. I've had a couple of concerned citizens, and they're all confused as to about when Walmart's going to open. I told them I thought that all of the road network had to be in place before they could officially open, and you have any update on any of that?
Yeah, right. That's exactly right. The road has to be in place to accommodate traffic for the Walmart.
That does not include the interchanges?
No.
Okay.
The interchanges are a separate matter.
Okay.
We're still continuing to work with the state on those to push for the more fluent traffic pattern, less right, left turns. But the Walmart, from the latest we have, is in the fall. I don't have an exact date.
Okay.
There is a water line issue that is trying to be worked out, which is holding up a little bit of that road work. That's for the city's utilities. So staff from the county have been working with Walmart. The building is fully up to speed on schedule. It's that road work out front that's the critical path right now.
So that's the Sharpsburg Pike piece has to be in place before they can officially open?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions from the commissioners?
No.
Okay, moving forward, reports from county staff. We have any staff here today but care to provide a report? Boards and commissions? Oh, I'm sorry.
I do have one, Commissioners. I'd like to share these draft goals for fiscal year 2018, which obviously we're already, actually, I'm sorry, if you pass a few of those down. We're already in fiscal year 2018, but with the change of administration and so forth, a little behind schedule. I would like to report to you that all of your staff, including my office and all directors, and I believe Sarah's as well, has presented their goals, and those are readily available, numerous and voluminous material, but the draft goals that you have are simply for your consideration, reflection. We can come back at a later date and review those, but that is a start relative to the goals for the upcoming year and beyond. So I also don't want to take too long, as the Secretary Scholes is here, and I really appreciate you joining us in our Commissioners' meeting room. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, any other staff reports, boards and commissions? None. Citizens' participations at 10:15, so let's just do that now. We have any citizens here today would care to come forward and participate and tell us what you'd like for us to know here? Okay. No citizens' participation, and now we are ready for the Youth Apprenticeship Program, and that will be Secretary Schultz, the Maryland Department of Labor, Licensing, and Regulation. How are you today?
I am wonderful, thank you.
Good. Thank you for coming to Washington County.
Absolutely. For the record, Kelly Schultz, Secretary of Maryland's Department of Labor, Licensing, and Regulation, and a Frederick County resident. I want to thank the Commission for allowing me to be here today, because we have a very important topic to discuss when we talk about our students and their futures. And a few years ago, the legislature tasked the Department of Labor and the Maryland State Department of Education with developing a youth apprenticeship program for our students starting in high school. And the way that the program works is that the students can be 16, 17, 18 years old, a junior or senior in high school, and they will do a work experience, an apprenticeship experience with a business or an industry in the local area, coordinated through the efforts of both the academic programs and the workforce programs. So we worked very diligently with the Department of Education and put out an RFP to see which school districts in the state would like to participate. Fortunately for us, there were 2 school districts that asked to participate, and those 2 school districts were Frederick and Washington County. The way that the law was written was that there would be 1 rural and 1 urban school district to go into this 2-year pilot program. So by default, Frederick County is the urban district, which I find a little ironic. But I think what we have been able to see and the lessons that we have learned as we have continued and completed our first academic year for the students are some major success stories. And I want to share some of those success stories with you here today, but I also want to ask you for your help into being able to, number 1, recruit more businesses, because the more businesses we have, the more students can participate, and also to help to talk about the idea of apprentices overall. This particular legislation said that apprenticeships are a great opportunity for students to be able to learn a skill before they go into the workforce. So there's something very important, obviously, about their academic curriculum and where they're working on building their educational platform. But what we are hearing across the country and within Maryland is that there is a deficit upon graduation from students to actually have a skill to be able to go into the workforce. Thus, many students are choosing to either go into the college setting, into a 2-year or 4-year university, or they graduate from high school with a diploma. And when we talk to the academic world, we understand that we have to do a little bit more for our students in order to be able to provide them with some other options. And apprenticeships are an option. Historically, apprenticeships have done very well in this country in the skilled trade industries. So you're in construction, plumbing, heating, air conditioning, building trades, as Commissioner Barr knows very well. And you're able to move forward on that path, and those apprenticeship programs are very successful. The European model, which we have garnered much of our information and our research from, allows apprenticeships, or really kind of demands, and it's the expectation that there's an apprenticeship model in all of the industries. And STEM is the perfect location for this apprenticeship program to begin. So we have businesses that have signed up in the manufacturing industries, in the banking and the insurance industry, in the healthcare industry. In Frederick County, we even have Holly Hills Golf Course that has brought on a youth apprentice to learn the facilities maintenance, to be able to understand the environmental issues related to maintaining the greens at the golf course. And what we have heard from this business in particular, just as an example, is that there is an aging population within this particular industry across the state, and to be able to develop the youth at a younger age to get them interested in that industry and move along in their academic training at an early age is something that's very beneficial for them as they start looking at retirements and being able to retain working staff. So the good news is that we completed a successful first year. In Washington County, we had 3 apprentices and 7 businesses that had signed up. Many more youth apprentices signed up to be enrolled in the program, but there was that matchmaking that we learned throughout about halfway through the year, that we really needed to bring somebody on from the Department of Labor to be able to help to make those connections. I just want to give a shout out to the 7 businesses in Washington County that are actively participating as an apprentice sponsor at this point in time. It's RAMPF Molds, O'Boyle Enterprises, B. Todd Stocks Insurance, DVF Corporation, Beachley Furniture, Stacy Nicole Interior Design, and Beacon Grace. And those, I think, are our entrepreneur companies, those that are leading the way in order to be able to help to develop those success stories. Ironically enough, I was here about this time last year doing some tours in Washington County, and I stopped to, at a business meeting, to tour the manufacturing site of Beachley Furniture. And the more we started talking, the more I realized that they would be a wonderful partner in the apprenticeship program. And we very quickly got them signed up, and they're very focused on being able to determine. So what I found through touring in Washington County and Frederick County, the more we talk about the idea of apprenticeships outside of the building trades, the more the businesses understand the opportunities for them. We have a great video that I would love to share with this group, and I'll have my staff send it to the group for distribution. And it's the success stories that Frederick County Public Schools had done. And they interviewed the business owners specifically on this and asked them what they received as a benefit of this program. Because, quite frankly, as many of you know, an apprenticeship program is a paid employment opportunity. That's how apprenticeship programs are successful, because it allows the students to earn a living or a partial living up at least minimum wage, and most, if not all, of the apprenticeship sponsors are paying more than minimum wage. So there is an expense, but the apprentices are also learning at the same time. So what are the businesses getting out of it, with the exception of just an other employee? What we have heard from the business owners is that they are capable of and responsible for reviewing all of their internal processes and policies to be able to start somebody at a very entry-level position. So it's kind of forcing their current employees to be able to go back and look at what those beginning processes are, look at what those skills are that are needed by the students in order to be able to achieve higher levels of success throughout the apprenticeship program. And it's amazing because all of the apprentices that went through the Frederick County system were either offered a job by the employer at the end, and in one case, there was the opportunity to expand a manufacturing business into another part of the region and bring on that youth apprentice as somewhat of a managing partner, because she learned so much about what she was able to do and to succeed. So there are success stories there. The way that the bill was drafted, it said for the pilot program that each of these school districts would be able to take up to 60 students within the pilot program so that we could see what's happening. At the Department of Labor, we made a very clear decision that we were going to be less concerned the first year about the numbers of students participating. We were going to be more concerned about making sure that we got it right, to make sure that we listened to the schools, that we listened to the businesses, we listened to the students and their parents about what some of those lessons learned and how we could make the program better, which is one thing that we learned from both school districts, is that the current school counselors and the staff within the high schools do not have the extra time to donate to a new program. And because the legislation, when it passed, did not come with any funding. It was one of those things where we were asked to get it up and running and figure out how to keep it going with no funds. We did that very successfully. But what we also did was we applied for some federal grants. And the federal grant was a $2.2 million grant that came from the U.S. Department of Labor. And Maryland had the third highest award for the grant that we received in the nation. And that's because of these innovative ways that we're able to work with the youth and the businesses. And so we were able to set some of that money aside, not only to put out into the communities so that we could help develop other apprenticeship programs for specific industry sectors, but also so that we could bring on contractual employees that would donate or dedicate their time to Washington County Public Schools and to Frederick County Public Schools. So one of our lessons that we learned is we needed a navigator. We needed somebody to make those connections, to help the students write their resumes, to help them with the interview process with those businesses that have stepped forward as a sponsor, and to be able to build the idea within the school districts without tapping too heavily into the already overtasked staff that works inside the high schools. And those employees of the Department of Labor came on into the school system end of April. And so now we have 2 dedicated folks that are in this region every day helping to make those connections. And I think that is step 1 for us to be able to help to improve the marketplace and the branding of apprenticeships in Washington County. Washington County is unique because the Association of Builders and Contractors, ABC, has a school to apprenticeship type program. And that is a very successful program. They've apprenticed about 48 apprentices are registered within that program to go into the construction trades. And we're working very diligently with ABC to make sure that we can collaborate and look at how their program is successful for those students that want to pursue careers in the construction industry, but also how can we learn from what they have already experienced as success in their area, in their industry, to be able to tap into that as well. We have several success stories in order to be able to deliver, and my purpose here today is to, number 1, educate you and update you on the program, as it is a pilot program unique to Washington County, and to ask for your assistance, and of course to take any questions from you on what you may feel is important to your community, the industries, the gaps in your workforce specifically. But thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Any questions for Secretary Schultz? I do have a question. You had mentioned on the pilot program that you were accepting up to 60 students.
Yes, sir.
Is that each county?
Each county, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then how do we get a list of the apprenticeship programs that they're going to be offering?
We can forward to this board. We can send you a copy of the industry sponsors that have signed up and have their occupation. As an example, I have a meeting actually with your healthcare system out here a little bit later today. I will be in Washington County, and Commissioner Barr, just wanted to let you know that I was not at TAWS last week because I was here in Washington County doing some other business visits. So I missed the very hot day on the blacktop, but I'm sure everybody had a great time. But Frederick Memorial Hospital is a great example of ways in order to be able to think and to expand outside of the idea of apprenticeship. And so we'll be meeting with Trivergent later this afternoon to talk about some of those occupations, because Frederick Memorial Hospital has identified 30 occupations within the healthcare industry within the hospital in order to be able to accept apprentices. And that's everything from working with biomedical technology, the equipment, making sure that it has been inspected and that when it goes into a patient's room, it's operable and ready to move forward. They have the insurance validation, so if somebody wants to do the healthcare insurance, they have a medical coding, and then the obvious dietary nutrition type positions that they have registered as a registered occupation, and then physician's assistants and those that you would think are technically and traditionally within the healthcare industry. And that's a great example of bringing in students into an environment, a work environment that shows the student, if you want to go into healthcare, what does it actually mean to go into healthcare? What does it mean to be in the hospital environment or in a physician's environment? And it means so much more than what we would traditionally think the healthcare industry would be. We had one student that was an apprentice in the biomed or biological equipment area at Frederick Memorial Hospital. He completed his 450 hours of his pre-apprenticeship program, got his certificate from the state, and the hospital created a position for him to continue on after his senior year of high school. And that's the purpose of these types of programs, to be able to make those connections. But that student never would have known that there was any type of a position available in the hospital setting that had anything to do with mechanical, industrial, equipment type occupations until he was able to experience it firsthand. But being able to provide you with those businesses that are out there, number one, I want them to be recognized because it really is a forward-thinking opportunity for the business owners to be able to take on a responsibility. The first type of, they're ambassadors now, I call them, of this program because they've been able to see it firsthand. But in your interactions across your county and all of the businesses that you know, I'd like to make all of you ambassadors so that you can help to discuss this program as well.
I find this, I don't want to say quite odd, but intriguing. I go way back to when my dad started his masonry business back in the 50s. And it was almost like a responsibility that they had to bring on apprentices in the concrete, the masonry, and so forth. And I'm sure Jack Barr, as well as in the electrical industry. And please don't, I know you're the number one person right now, DLLR, but DLLR is responsible for regulations that caused us to watch what we do with MOSH and some of those regulations that almost made us give up of how can we include apprentices without and make sure they're safe, make sure that they're being, I guess, paid properly or not, and to get past all the red tape, all the regulations. So, you know, I'm hoping that's, obviously it's been addressed, but I think that's probably the biggest fear that we would have.
Sure.
Is that you're getting into something that would cause more harm than good.
Well, Commissioner Myers, I definitely appreciate that, and I don't know when those issues occurred with the masonry, but I can tell you that there's been a lot of advancements in education and cultural change that has occurred throughout the department over the last couple of years, and I'll just speak specifically to MOSH. We have had a tremendous amount of success in the outreach that we have been able to do with businesses across the state, both in the construction industry and in other industries as well. And when we determine what our mission is for that particular organization, our mission is to be able to help to create a safe and healthy work environment for employees so that the employees go home in the same condition as they went to work.
I understand.
And
that,
there's a couple of ways to do that. There's the enforcement of the regulations into compliance, and there's the heavy hand to go in and to be able to look at a surprise visit in that way. And then there is the education and there's the outreach effort, which we have been very, very focused on doing a couple of hundred outreach events across the state to be able to offer our services as a teaching experience to those businesses that may not have known what the requirements are to be in compliance with OSHA, federal OSHA requirements that we are obligated to be able to regulate and to enforce. So the feedback that we have gotten from the business community overall and the vast increase in numbers of our voluntary protection programs as opposed to the enforcement programs has been very well accepted by both employers and employees, because we're putting the employees in the position to be able to help to work with management to create that safe and healthy work environment.
and I agree with you, but I guess I'm relating to that to the apprentices.
Yes, so some of the,
How do we include
so
those?
some of the businesses that we have spoken to that may have interest, a quick response that we get, well, we can't bring a 16 or a 17-year-old into our business because there is heavy equipment, because there is some type of risk and danger to be able to manage the safe and healthy environment. But our response to that is we're not asking for a 16 or a 17-year-old apprentice to start working on an electrical transformer when they're 16 or 17 years old. Because when you think about the idea of apprentice, you're thinking about what are the initial skills. Some of the students that are 16 or 17 years old, they're learning what an electrical transformer is. They're learning the meaning behind that electrical transformer. They're understanding what goes into the purchase and the maintenance of that. So we're not teaching them electricity specifically, but we're teaching them what the industry looks like and what are those very basic skills that are needed in order to be able to someday join an apprenticeship program, in an electrical apprenticeship program, so that they can advance that career. So the pre-apprenticeship program is to allow them the opportunity to develop some skills in order to be able to advance. We have, so with Holly Hills, or let's say Beachley Furniture, because that's Washington County. At Beachley Furniture, we're not asking the apprentice at the end of the 450 hours to understand what it means or how they are going to create a beautiful piece of handmade crafted furniture. What we're asking is that they understand what the different machines are, what the different tools are. They may have hands-on after some period of time. They may not have hands-on at some period of time for the 450 hours. But it gets them to the level of understanding what the environment is in which they're moving. So we had, I just also want to give it a shout out to First Energy. So First Energy, which ironically enough serves both Frederick and Washington County, they were one of the first large businesses in that energy field that I went to talk to them about this a year and a half, 2 years ago when we started setting this up. And they're a large corporation, obviously, and they have an HR unit that replicates state government HR bureaucracy. And so they were going to have a difficult time because of those reasons that you had suggested. Selling the idea of somebody being, even in the office, looking at schematics or energy, the electrical diagrams. So what they decided to do, and I'm very thankful for, is to be able to, through their foundation, their community foundation, provide $15,000 to the two school systems. And it's been over the last 2 years that they've offered that to us to help some of the small businesses that may not have that difficulty with HR departments bringing in students under the age of 18 years old. So $15,000 is in Washington County's Community Foundation for those small businesses that may need help in order to pay the salaries of the students and where they are. But that is a concern, and not every industry is going to be able to take on a 16 or 17-year-old, and we understand that. But if you are working in a financial institution under STEM, and if you are working in a hospital environment, or if you're working in an insurance company, or if you're working in anywhere in healthcare, manufacturing, you will have that opportunity to bring a 16 or 17-year-old on because of the decrease in the risk for safety.
Thank you.
That was a very long answer.
But I see what you're saying. I mean, it's still, there is that risk. And there's
There-
that exposure, and we have to watch where.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. And I will give a shout out to our Office of Apprenticeship as well, because they are probably the leading professional experts, the subject matter experts in the field of apprentices, and are helping other states across the country to be able to understand this new way in which we're doing business and providing additional skills to students. So if a business says that they have somewhat of an interest, but they have some concerns about what this looks like, if there's a lot of red tape, if there's a bureaucracy that's surrounding this, they are quickly alleviated of their concerns because we have an apprentice navigator that will come directly to the business and spell every step out, basically creating almost a business plan for the employer and the employee to be able to identify what are the skills that we need to be able to assist with, what are the needs of the business and to be able to fill that employee gap that they have, what's their desire. And so that is all spelled out specifically for every business, for every registered apprentice that is that's in the queue right now. So it's easy. It's a piece of cake.
Just get involved.
We're just getting rolling. I'm looking forward to this upcoming school year. I'm looking forward to see the advancements and the number of students that are interested. What we are finding is that parents sometimes have an idea of what an apprenticeship program is. We have had some businesses that have come to us and some different organizations that said, well, I think this is a really great idea, but do we have to call it an apprenticeship? And I said, well, yes, we do have to call it an apprenticeship, because I believe sometimes there's the stigma that if your child is going into an apprenticeship, then they're not going to go on to higher education, that they're not going to follow a different type of a career pathway, and that the child is being labeled as somebody that may not be accessible to a career in academics and moving forward with that. But that is a branding that is slowly changing. I think the pilot programs in these two counties are helping with that. I very rarely ever go to any speaking engagement without talking about apprenticeships, because I think people need to start understanding that this is going to be a new way. If anybody is watching the nightly news, which I don't necessarily recommend all the time, or reading the newspapers, which I also don't recommend reading all the time, but there is, no offense to the Herald Mail, of course, but the idea of apprenticeships is growing on a national level. And one area that we know our partners in Washington, D.C. with U.S. Department of Labor is that they are going to continually focus on apprenticeship in all of the non-traditional apprenticeship programs. That's where we're going to see the increase in the focus on what we think of as the idea of apprenticeships and what we think of as the idea of workforce. Because what I do know is that Congress is going to, at some point in time, if not this year, then in the near future when they develop their budgets, there's going to be less money for what we consider to be traditional workforce programs. And that's a little unsettling to us to know that we need to be able to create a workforce that's going to be able to provide the additional skills to industries all across the state. Apprenticeships is a way in which we can start to develop a workforce network outside of traditional training programs that we will eventually see a lack of funding in.
Okay, anything else for Secretary Schultz?
Secretary, I know we have a number of businesses that I would think may be interested. I know firsthand there's some of our larger employers too that have apprenticeship programs with some high schoolers, because some staff members in fact have worked for them and gone on to be very successful because of it. The outreach that you see, or the two staff members that you spoke of, they will reach out to us and provide contacts, so we may be able to collaborate on this discussion further.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. You can always reach out to me in the event that you have somebody that would like to continue discussions about it, but I will definitely provide the board with the list of contacts from our department so that they can have direct contact here in Washington County. Absolutely.
And this is also involves the Board of Education and Washington County Public Schools, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, and so the partnership is really between the school district and the Department of Labor, and they have been extremely helpful. But like I said, they have a focus, and they have tasks in which they're trying to successfully achieve as well. So what we learned was that over-tapping them means that something has to give, and we thought that this was so important. So we decided to bring, when we talked with MSDE, Maryland State Department of Education, about additional resources, because the big connecting point is the businesses, we did not want the school districts to be charged with taking on that responsibility. So the Department of Labor, obviously, by our charge and what our mission is to be able to connect with those businesses to be able to create that. You're welcome.
Okay, anything else? Last chance, sir, commissioners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And if there, I will send all of our contact information, so please don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Yep, have a good day. Next on the agenda is the Washington County Youth Academy graduation. And I'd like to ask James Jenkins to come forward and provide some information along with Mr. Art Hicks. How are you, Mr. Hicks?
Good morning, sir. Fine. Good morning. James Jenkins, Manager of Public Relations, Community Affairs. I'm joined with Mr. Arthur Hicks. As you might be familiar, we ran a Citizen Academy earlier this year, and after we were completed with that program, we were contacted by Mr. Hicks about potentially doing a youth program. So what we did is I sat down with staff, and we kind of modified it because the Citizens Academy was a lecture and tour-based program. So what we did is we modified it to make it more of a tour-based, a little bit of lecture-based program. To modify it so it'd be a little more interactive and less lecture. So I want to thank Katie. She handled the logistics for me for this program. But the group of students, they toured the Hagerstown Regional Airport. They also toured the Ag Center during Ag Week, so they got to walk around and see what Leslie took them on a tour there. And then they also went out to the landfill, the wastewater treatment plant, and 911 center. And I do believe at the 911 center, they also got to look at the mobile command vehicle, which is pretty cool. I mean, I like going in that, so I can only imagine what the children thought of that. So what I will do now is I will turn it over to Mr. Hicks, and he can kind of explain a little bit more about his culture exchange program.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity. These young men have seen things that they would never normally see. And Mr. Baker, I appreciate that. Mr. Slocum, I appreciate that because as a result of our discussions, you made something happen. The entire program is really about exposing young men to cultures that they would never normally come in contact with. In addition to the things that were mentioned, they had a chance to tour the outside of the prison and then speak with a retired prison guard and an inmate who had served 8.5 years because I wanted them to see that side. Today, they just came back from, half of them had Spanish class and the other half came back, they've come back from homeless camps in Washington County because I wanted them to see that type of thing. They're seeing the world through a straw. And what the program is about is taking them to the window and lifting the shade and say there's more to it than what you're being exposed to. You know, studies, particularly in behavioral science, have indicated that you can raise the level of IQ and the statistical probabilities of success the more you expose a young person to various cultures. So that's what it's been about. We've started mid-June. We'll run through mid-August. Other agencies have got on board, and in particular, more private citizens have gotten on board just to give the young men an opportunity to see what life is like. And one of the fascinating things was the police ride-along for 4 hours. every kid doesn't get to do that, but they also had a chance to go to over circuit court to a sentencing. And I needed them to see the result of poor choices. And the gentleman took a plea to 7 years. They were astonished. The guy's really going to jail for 7 years? Yeah, he's going to jail for 7 years. We have more things on the agenda that will have an impact on their life. And I think, in a nutshell, you've helped to re-engineer. You know, there was a book out some time ago titled "Tattooed in the Cradle," where some things are predictors. Well, what we know is behavior is a predictor, of your destiny, and so you've really helped to expose them to some things that they wouldn't ordinarily see, and will have an impact to re-engineer their perspective on life. And I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I know, just an aside here, when he talks about exposing them to things they might not see in life, apparently they're complaining about the smells at the Ag Center, and I said, just wait till they get to the wastewater treatment plant. Yeah, that's one thing, so.
Good pleasure.
Yep. So I know we have certificates for each of the students that did participate, and also a little treat, so.
I do want to warn you that now we start off with more than that are here today, because, attrition is a funny thing, disciplinary and non-disciplinary, so. All the names may not be here, but thanks for the consideration.
Thank you, and go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir. You have one particularly young-looking man at the end there. How old is that gentleman?
Me?
Yeah.
How old are you?
11.
All right. Very good. I have an 11-year-old too. Thank you, sir.
Ages run from 11 to 17.
You mentioned they got to do a 4-hour ride along with our police departments, city or sheriff's department?
City. That was city.
Okay.
That was city. And part of the program, the program is not just about exposing to different cultures and have that culture be introduced to how you see life, but the requirement, the fundamental is language. In other words, half the boys are studying Spanish and half are studying Korean. One of our boys is on his third language. He's fluent in 2. So this is not just sign up, we're going to go for a ride. No, you have academics every day. So, yeah.
Okay, that brings up another question. Is the program for guys only?
Mr. Baker, would you like to handle
Just asking.
teenage girls?
Okay, and then when will you'll have another group go through the program? So this is going to be, how often will you offer this program?
When I first thought of doing the program, it looked to me to be a 7 or 8 week program, because you have access, because they're out of school and things like that. Certainly, one thing we want to do is continue it during the summer. What is disturbing is the need for ongoing relationships and mentoring. And there are many organizations that do that, year round. What I've discovered is you just can't go to a kid's ball game, but you have to go to the ball game. But what they're really reaching out for is relationship and conversation and just interest. They paid more attention to the homeless people that we talked to today in the homeless camps than they do at any time, because they've never seen it up close. They had to deliver food to homeless people. See. So I'm going to try to keep it to where it's manageable, and I think 7 or 8 weeks in the summer is manageable. Yeah. Oh, and the reason I say boys only is because, in my view, if young boys grow up to be solid young men, then the entire society changes. So.
You're going to be involved with future programs?
Yes, that's correct.
And then the kids also have access to your contact information, so when they want to have a discussion or a conversation, they're able to get a hold of you? Or
what I've done is I've worked with the parents. And I think
the reason I say that is, I know, luck's the word, I don't know. We're very fortunate to have a mentor and an individual such as yourself to look up to and go to for advice, and they need to take advantage of that.
I appreciate that, sir. And the ones that are here that made it this far will agree with you, and the ones that didn't make it may not agree with you. But
Okay, well, we do have a handful of certificates here, so what I'd like to do is have all of the commissioners help present.
okay.
Over there.
What I'll do is I'll just tell you what's on the certificate. Congratulations there, young men. You can look at every county commissioner here, and we got our start in life by looking up to a mentor and doing what they do. If you want to be successful, just do what this guy's done. So it's pretty easy to find someone to idolize and follow what they do, and that's how you become successful. One with somebody successful help guide you to do it. But anyhow, we do have a certificate of recognition, and I'll let Mr. Hicks on your name now when it's appropriate to give the certificate. In recognition of completing the 2017 youth academic courses and participating in the cultural exchange mentoring program, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, hereby commend your hard work and thank you for devoting your time to the program. We wish you the best of your future endeavors. And signed by all 5 county commissioners. Again, each one of us county commissioners started out just like you all are standing here today, getting involved in doing great things and listening to our mentors. Before we present the certificates, and we also have a free pass for the Marty swimming pool. Any of you all have any comments? Directed toward Mr. Hicks or anything? He said the homelessness was one of your most rewarding experiences during the tour of everything. 911 center, did you enjoy that? Hey, you guys keep up the great work, and I'd like to ask any county commissioners have anything to add, and we'll let Mr. Hicks present the certificate. You know who's here and who's not.
Mr. Hicks, you have any candidates for the apprenticeship, youth apprenticeship programs?
The interesting thing is, as a result of this program, 2 of the boys are now working for one of the business, and of course, Manny Shaw, he stays to work 2 days a week. There are some kids here that would be perfect for an apprenticeship program. What you want to realize about these boys, they're good boys. In other words, they're not the squeaky wheel. And the problem I had was the squeaky wheel was always getting the attention. You could take any one of these boys and put them in an apprenticeship program, and they would do very well. And particularly if it came to a bilingual or trilingual situation, they're a challenge, right? You're doing a good job. I just want to tell you fellas, Mr. Baker's an All-American.
I know it's all SEC. Well, I wasn't all.
He's an All-American. I'm his agent. He's an All-American in track and field, and you got to start right here in Hagerstown. And the D1 school, Auburn, goes it out at home, so I said that.
Auburn is the University of Alabama.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Easement.
Please come down. Yes, our instructor. Who manages instructors here? Yeah. Come on, Miss Kathy. Miss Kathy, where's Joyce? Thanks, Judge. See. Where do you want to line up?
Let's see. If I could get you three on the end here, if I can get you on the other side.
You want like 2 rows, Jay in front or something?
Yeah, I might have. Yes, him in the front. Terry, can you step back just a back in line? Yep, there you go. There you go. And you two in the center, if you could take half step to your right and then another half step back. All right, and can I have you two on the end come over here on the other side of Mr. Myers? Yes, please. All right, everybody.
All the young men are supposed to smile if they love Mr. Hicks.
Big smiles and look up at George. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. There we go. All done.
I think Kelly like what I had said.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Okay.
It was a bill. It was in Annapolis.
Washington County Gaming Commission's annual report and fiscal year 2017 gaming fund allocation announcement. Mr. Hovis,
Good morning, Commissioners.
and you have Mr. Nips?
I do.
Okay. Yep, how are you today, Mr. Nips? Good, good.
Good morning, Commissioners. We're here today for the Gaming Commission to provide their annual report on fiscal year 17, and they also be announcing the fiscal year 17 gaming fund allocations. If I could start off by introducing the Gaming Commission, please. Seated directly to my left is Mr. Jim Nips. He is the chair of the commission, and he was appointed by the chairman of our Washington County delegation. Also present is Mr. Dick Miller. Dick is our vice chair, and he was appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. Also present is Mr. Shad Hamilton, seated on the end. He was appointed by the delegation to represent the restaurant and beverage industry in Washington County. Also, I know present is Curtis Graff, over here to the right. He was appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. And is there any other commissioners present? I didn't see anyone walking in.
Before you go any further, I'd like to give Mr. Graff, Curtis Graff, a kudos. He was just recently inducted into the Washington County Sports Hall of Fame for his many contributions to youth and sports in Washington County throughout the years. And he's dedicated how many years of your life to high school athletics? 48, there you go.
He said 48. He
Congratulations.
doesn't speak very loud.
And he was he was one of my high school coaches, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Commissioners, other members of the commission that could not be present today are Thomas McBurney, who was appointed by our state senators, and Charles Batt, who is appointed by the delegation to represent the Washington County Club Association, and Mr. Brian Getz, who was appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. As I said, Commissioners, we're here today to tell you about what happened with Washington County Gaming in 2017. We've had another very successful year. We've had a tremendous positive impact on the nonprofit charities in Washington County, as well as the Washington County the Washington County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association. So in fiscal year 17, the Commission had available $1,938,257.45 available for distribution to the local charitable organizations and the Fire and Rescue Association. Now, that figure does reflect, unfortunately, a decrease of approximately 2.4%, or $46,660.67. We did meet our obligation to the Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association as required by statute and provided them with 50% of the funds that were collected. With that, I don't want to take all Mr. Nips's material, so I'm going to turn
half of it. Yeah, you took half of it.
I need to turn it over now to Jim for the remainder of the presentation, please.
First of all, I would like to thank all of my fellow commissioners, 3 of who are here and some are not, but I have to tell you that everybody attended all of the meetings. It was very obvious that they spent hours and hours and hours looking over the grant applications and really took a genuine interest in learning about these organizations. As Jim said, we didn't have quite as much to distribute for this year. It was $46,000 less than it was last year. But we had requests totaling a little over $1.8 million. And I'll just read this next section. After a one-day workshop in June and public hearings in July, we were able to either partially or fully fund 86 of 99 requests. We had 99 requests. Of the 99 applications received, 15 received full funding, 71 received partial funding, and 13 were denied funding. And a total of $969,128 was allocated to 75 of the 85 charitable organizations applying. And once again, I want to thank my fellow commissioners for all the hard work they've done. And I also want to thank Jim and his staff. They do an excellent job of keeping us informed, giving us information, and just following through with the whole process. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you all.
If I could also thank the commissioners for their hard work. This is an excellent group. They deliberated vigorously. So there were no handouts without merit. All these applications are awarded based on the merits application, but I would like to say that because the Gaming Commission chose not to fund a particular organization, that doesn't mean that organization is not worthy. It was just the Commission's decision that their request, that was included in this year's request, was they didn't feel that it should be funded, or perhaps there wasn't enough funding to grow around, which there wasn't because we had to cut 50%. So unfortunately, we need to cut somewhere. So it's just not a reflection of the organization if they did not receive funding. Also, we must thank, well, first off, our Board of County Commissioners and our state delegation for their support of this program over the past 20-plus years. Since 1995, when we had our delegation pass legislation, along with the commissioners to regulate charitable gaming in Washington County, we have provided over $60 million to charity. And again, this program is totally supported by those who choose to participate. No taxpayers' funding is involved. This is, if you choose not to participate in the charitable game program, you simply don't participate. It doesn't affect you at all. So tremendous support. Big thank you. If you notice, we have a full gallery today. It's great. Many of our applicants are here today. They put up with the application process, which starts in April and ends today. They just don't submit a one-page application. These are application packets, includes tax returns, detailed spending, budgets, financials, audits. So this is not simply a quick process for them. They put countless hours themselves into putting together an application. And again, return on investment. As part of their application, they must indicate not only how they spent the money they received the prior year, and not only prove how they spent it the prior year, they must tell us what the return on investment was to Washington County. So we want to know what the impact was of the money that was provided, and they all comply with that. And that's something that the commissioners really keep a close eye on. What was the return on investment? So, anyhow, big thank you to those folks that have applied. So. Commissioners, in your package, you should have the press release. And Susan Buchanan, since we have a mix of audience here, Susan will be handing out the press release with the awards to the nonprofits who applied as they leave, because we don't have enough copies for everyone that's here, but we will have enough for all Gaming Commission applicants to hand them out as they leave today. So, Commissioners, with that, turn it over to you.
Okay. So just for myself, I just want to thank everybody that's participated in the process. Congratulations to all of the recipients. And as he said, no taxpayer funds are involved in this program, and the decisions are made by appointed people and people who love our county, and we just want to thank you for everything you do for Washington County and its citizens. And with that, I'd like to make the other commissioners' comments.
I think you said it great.
Good job. Nice job.
Again, thank you, Jim, your staff, and all the volunteers.
Thank you. Nice place. First time I've been in here. Very nice.
And with that, let's take a couple of minute recess so we can go back and shake some hands, and then we'll get back to business.
I'll let my stuff here. I got something else here.
Took a recess to shake a hand yet.
Wash County Commissioners Visitors Bureau. Mr. Dan Spedden, unfortunately, is out of town and unable to be here today, but he did indicate he fully supports this request. Commissioners, we're here today to consider this request from the CVB. They've submitted a request for hotel rental tax funding to support the USA Cycling Amateur Road National Championships to be held on July 26th through July 29th, 2018. The amount of funding they're requesting for this event is $25,000. The USA Cycling Amateur National Championship is a nationally recognized event that is certain to bring economic benefits to our region. As a host community of the championships, the region can anticipate increased visitor spending on lodging, food, and beverage. Retail, gas, and amusements will also be increased. The championships will also generate labor income in the hospitality, transportation, government, health, waste, insurance, emergency services, construction, and utility sectors, so there will be an economic benefit. The event will also elevate the profile of our community and present it as a preferred destination among cyclists. 2016, the championship event managers reported 800 registered athletes. Historically, this event attracts between 700 and 1,000 unique participants, and on average, 2 spectators accompany each athlete. Additionally, they'll have 30-plus staff members and officials in the region for this event. A minimum of 140 hotel room nights will be generated from this event from staff and other officials. It is anticipated that athletes and spectators will generate an additional 2,000 to 3,500 room nights during the course of this event. The championship events that were held previously in Bend, Oregon, and Augusta, Georgia, were formally studied, and the economic impact was determined. The studies calculated almost $1.5 million impact to Bend, Oregon in 2009, and a $1.1 million impact to Augusta, Georgia in 2012. Visit Hagerstown expects to see $1.5 million in economic impact to Hagerstown and Washington County for this event in 2018. The total event budget for 2018 is set at $70,000. The CVB has secured funding from the CVB, Maryland Sports Commission, and local and national sponsors for this event, totaling $45,000. The project budget they're requesting assistance with includes $3,250 for promotion and advertising, $13,500 for law enforcement and EMS services, $4,500 for waste management, and $3,750 for rental equipment to set up and tear down. This event meets all 7 of the Board of County Commissioners' goals and criteria for the use of hotel rental tax funds. There are no issues or outstanding obligations to the county that would prevent the CVB from receiving funding. It is the recommendation of Office of Community Grant Management that this application be approved and amount to be determined to be appropriate by the Board of County Commissioners. The fiscal impact would be the hotel rental tax fund will be reduced by the amount of this award, if so awarded. Commissioners? Also, can I turn it over to Ms. Vargason for a few words? I'm sorry.
Just a brief overview of the event. It's a 4-day course of 3 courses. The courses have been determined to be in Boonesboro, Maryland, downtown Hagerstown, and Clear Spring. So it's not just reaching within the city, it's also going beyond into other municipalities in the county. It's 4 days of racing for those participants, and typically they do all 3 race styles. So each race style, it differs by the location. With that, we have in the economic reports from the previous host locations that commonly the attendees arrive a week to 2 weeks prior to be familiarized with the course, as these are national races that set up Olympic qualifiers. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions, commissioners, comments, thoughts?
I guess the thought is basically half of the request would turn around and come right back into our law enforcement and EMS services through paid overtime and participation, that sort of thing. I mean,
for some of these courses, we are required to have rolling enclosures or a full closure. according to the national guidelines. So whether it's a private contract or the public overtime for EMS or police services, that is the largest part of one of the safety considerations for this event.
Any other questions, comments? If none, motion to approve as recommended.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of the recommended motion. Any further discussion?
I think they were looking for an amount,
Yeah,
because there's not an amount.
Oh,
Commissioners, I didn't recommend an amount. I recommended it be approved as you all determine appropriate, so we would need a dollar figure, please.
I thought you said 25,000.
The request was
value
for-
you have on the request is 25,000.
The request is for 25.
I thought it says what we were approving. That's what, my apologies. So my motion is to approve 25,000.
Yeah, that's what's on my sheet. Okay, we do have a motion, a second for the recommended motion to include $25,000. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0. And again, thank you. Best of luck. And any questions on that, see Tim Long.
okay.
He's the cyclist expert. Okay, next will be renewal of county's community development block grant citizen participation in residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plans. Ms. Buchanan.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
All right. As you stated, I'm here requesting a motion to renew the county's community development block grant citizen participation and residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plans today. Federal regulations require that each unit of local government receiving or expecting to receive community development block grant funds must adopt a citizen participation plan and a community, and an residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plans. Each unit of local government is also required to keep those plans current and effective for a 5-year period. The county adopted the plans in 2014, and they will expire in August of 2017, so they must be renewed to maintain compliance with the Department of Housing and Community Development regulations. You may note that prior to this year, it was a 3-year renewal, which is why we are already here to renew them when they were put in place in 2014. The Citizen Participation Plan is a document that states the county will do the following: provide for and encourage citizen participation, ensure that citizens will be given reasonable and timely access to local meetings, information, and records relating to the county's proposed and actual use of CDBG funds, furnish the citizens information about CDBG funds and activities, provide technical assistance, provide a minimum of 2 public hearings to give citizens the notice of and opportunity to comment on proposed activities and an application to the state of Maryland, and provide citizens with the opportunity to submit complaints and grievances. The Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Plan states the county or its designee will do the following when any tenant is to be displaced as a result of CDBG finance activities. The county or its designee will replace all occupied and vacant occupiable low moderate income housing in connection with activities assisted and funds provided under the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended. The county or their designee will provide relocation assistance as described in 24 CFR 42.350 to each low moderate income household displaced by the acquisition or demolition of housing or by the conversion or rehabilitation of low moderate income dwellings to another use as a direct result of assisted activities. Both plans in their entirety are included in your packet if you have any comments or questions.
Questions, comments? If none, motion to move forward is presented to renew.
So moved.
Second.
A motion second for the recommended motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Conococheague Treatment Plant ENR upgrade. Mr. Bradshaw, how are you today?
Good morning. I have a change order number 2 associated with the Conococheague ENR upgrade. As you can see on the change orders, there's 7 different items we have combined into one change order. If you want, I'll go over, hit the highlights of each line item, and if you have any questions, you can stop me and I'll try to answer them for you. The first one was manhole 2A. Manhole 2A was supposed to connect to the existing effluent line coming out of the plant. When we dug up the line, we discovered it was 36-inch pipe, but the plans called for 30, so the manhole was sitting there, had a 30-inch hole in it, so we had to recore the manhole, and we had to get a special boot because the pipe was a white corrugated PVC pipe that was used in the late 80s, early 90s for a few years, and it required a special connection, so we had to modify the existing manhole and the connections to make everything work. Item number 2 is a credit. We have some 42-inch pipe that we installed, and the T-bolts associated with the piping was to be stainless steel, but the vendor sent the stainless steel bolts, but when we went to put everything together, it was too short. The bolts would not work, and they said it would be 3 weeks to get the stainless steel bolts, so they could have us the regular carbon steel bolts there within a few hours, and they offered us a credit differential between what the stainless steel bolts and the carbon bolts would cost, and they give us a credit there of $3,626. And item number 3 required a flow meter to be installed in a vault outside the Biomag building. The contractor came up with a configuration that would allow the meter to be installed inside the building, thus eliminating the need for the vault. So under the value engineering, we shared the cost savings associated with that, and our share was $27.50. Number 4 was a float switch had to be added to the methanol facility. The plans did not show it, but the tank manufacturer said we needed to have it. So we added the float switch, and that was $547. Item number 5 dealt with a masonry wall in the solids handling building. The wall was shown on the P&M drawings, but was not shown on the structural drawings, and the associated door for that room was also not included in the door schedule. So contractor requested a change order for that item to be $28,579. And then a power duct bank had to be relocated from what was shown on the plan. That was because once we started excavation where the duct bank was, we discovered another duct bank was already there and wasn't quite installed per the original plans. So we had to reroute it, and we chose to go out around some of the buildings instead of trying to fit it through the middle of all the construction activities. That particular item was $8,774. Then the last item dealt with sludge removal. We have 3 oxidation ditches out there, and each ditch will be taken out of service at some point and modified. And in the specification, we estimated that there would be 120 cubic yards of sludge combined in all 3 tanks. We took Ox Ditch 3 out of service. We had 125 cubic yards of sludge just in that particular tank. And so when we took Ox Ditch 2 out, we had a similar amount, which far exceeded the specified amount. So the contractor has a change order for that particular item of $39,057. So when you add all the expenses up and the associated credits we got for this change order, the total amount of the change order is in the amount of $83,685.50. So if you have any particular questions about any of the items, I'll answer them for you.
Any questions, Commissioners?
These were not design deficiencies, so to speak. They were just.
No, most of them are dealt with renovation. I mean, when you get into an existing facility and you start renovating, things usually on the paper says it's here, but you find out it's here. Like with the sludge, we estimated 120 cubic yards of sludge, we thought. Until you actually take the oxidation ditches out of service, you have no true idea of what the actual volume will be. So no, they were not design errors. It's just, I mean, the plans call for one thing, but when you dig it up, you find something different.
So staff has vetted all these items and are comfortable.
Yes, I am comfortable, and I've discussed them all with Julie in detail, and she's also comfortable with the changes.
Okay, no other comments. I need a motion to move forward as presented.
So moved.
Motion, a second for the approval of the recommended motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. Location of the Washington County Board of Elections, Ms. Kay Rabusi, Mr. Bruce Field, and the Mr. Roger Schlossberg.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
President Baker.
Good morning.
I know we've had discussions on this a number of times, and we really want to thank the Commissioners for your effort on this app. It seems that the movement is towards 101 Tandy as a possible location. And we wanted to let you know that we, as the board and as all the staff, unanimously agree that that's not really a suitable location for the Board of Elections. And I'm going to let Roger explain that.
You know, none of us, not a single member of the Board of Elections, has ever run for election. Each of the commissioners, of course, have. We don't have that experience. We're not on that side. But we are essentially the representatives of the voters in the voting process. And that's who we're advocates for. Now, two of the members of this board have the actual experience of sitting on the Board of Elections. Commissioner Kiefer, Commissioner Barr, both were members of the Board of Elections before they came up here. Wayne wasn't there that long, but he was with us for a short time. He was there for a short time. Our job, the whole point of having an election process and enhancing the election process is the goal of the board. It's to promote participation in voting. In order to do that, folks have to be comfortable with the process. They have to be comfortable with the polling process. The state of Maryland made a decision 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that we were going to join the early voting movement, the national movement towards early voting, which has been enormously successful nationally. There are states that now have early voting percentages 50% and more. Maryland's early voting, when it started in 2010, was down in the single digits, the low single digits. Today, it's 25% of all ballots cast.
You said that was Washington County?
No, I didn't. That's statewide. Statewide, it's 25% now, Terry. But Washington County, where are we? We have been 23rd or 24th. One time, one election, we were as high as 20th in the state. We are last, dead last, or next to last every election. Why is it? Most critically, it's because of the location of our early voting center. We came to this board and to the county staff as early as 2012, and in 2013 began talks in earnest to try and create a situation where our early voting center, our board offices, and our warehouse space would be consolidated in a place so that we could better serve the citizens. As you all know from the earlier discussion about consolidation, we lose an enormous amount of efficiency when we have to go from one place to another, when our warehouse facilities, our training facilities, our early voting facilities are all in disparate locations. But what we've got to do now is we've got to make sure that the location that we choose serves the citizens as well and is not just a space utilization question. And unfortunately, we say this respectfully, unfortunately, it appears to the board that space utilization has gotten an upper hand over the benefits of consolidation and the promotion of early voting. There's no way to put lipstick on this pig. 101 Tandy Drive is a building that the county purchased in order to serve the long-term needs of the jail. Indeed, it's in your 20-year plan right now that's where the jail will expand when the jail needs to expand. And unfortunately, human nature being what it is and experience of the population being what it is, we're going to need to expand the jail at some point. It's not in the 10-year plan, but it's in your 20. And that makes sense because it needs to be near the other security facilities. You don't want to create two secure facilities in two different places, be enormously inefficient. So we're really talking about where you're going to place the board for perhaps 10 years, maybe a couple more. But remember, when we started this discussion in 2011, it was to give us a 20-year solution. This is not a 20-year solution. And to get back to the lipstick and the pig, you're setting us down next to the jail, butt up against the razor wire. On the other side of the very building we're going to be in is the day reporting center. And as you drive in the parking lot, you're welcomed by the foot-shackled prisoners standing in the smoking area, which is what you drive past to go in. Listen, I'm not suggesting the day reporting center is not a great idea. Sheriff Mullendorf believes in it very strongly. You guys endorsed it. We got to try things to make things work. Fine, there should be a day reporting center. That decision's made. But are you going to take the most vital function of democracy, voting, and discourage people from coming out to vote? Because they're going to come out and get out of their car, and you know what that you're welcomed with during a spring primary? I'm not sure, Rob, if you were out there last year for the spring primaries. On a warm day, you have the prisoners outside hooting and catcalling at the women as they get out of their cars. This can't be the best solution. And in fact, it's not. And on top of that, the calendar's caught up with us. The one thing we have expressed continuously is that the only time we can consider a move is during a year that ends in an odd number. We can't move in a year with an even number because that's the year we're conducting elections. We've got a primary next spring. We've got a general election next November. We are up to our butts in work, training, state requirements, testing machines, putting people on the street, and getting the job done. We have no time. We don't have any time. We were supposed to move this summer. The latest was August. That's when we were going to move. And that was okay because we knew there'll be a little slippage. Maybe it'll be September. Maybe it'll be October. And then we can operate. And then we can find out, oh, the HVAC doesn't work, the computer connections don't work here, we don't have enough power there. The inevitable stuff that's going to happen. Mr. Bradshaw just made that comment. It made me smile because that's what I started thinking about. Yeah, once you get into the job, it's a renovation. John, you know, every time you do, something goes wrong because there's things you can't see. So we'd be pushed back. But by the end of the year we had planned, we'd be done. And we can hit the ground running on the first of the new year. Well, we can't do that now. We cannot do it. We can't get it done. And if you do it, you may be guaranteeing an electoral disaster. Listen, where did we want to go? We wanted to go to the Macy's building. We thought it was a great solution. We thought the commissioners agreed with us initially on it. You made a decision. That's okay. That's the politics of it. That's why you guys are being paid the big bucks. You got to make that decision. And if you decided it wasn't the right place for us, okay, fine, it wasn't the right place for us. Don't shuffle us into a spot that is going to be counter to the very purpose of what we do. We can stay where we are. We'd rather stay where we are. All the people here, the vast majority of them, I'm sure some people here for a couple items after that, but the vast majority of the people who are here are election judges, election workers. They're here unanimously to tell you they don't want to go downtown. The entire election staff of the board came up here today. They're giving up their lunches so they could be here for this. And then they'll go back and work through. They want you to hear, to see, not you won't have to listen to them. You only have to listen to me. Only for as long as you're willing. They want you to know this is a bad decision. It's not going to promote things. We can stay right where we are. We'll stay where we are. I know that we can talk a little bit about what really drives the space requirements downtown. We've heard the discussion that our space has got to be given to the register so the register space can become a new courtroom. Won't be a new courtroom, positively will not be a new courtroom until at the earliest. You will not need that until late 2019. There has been no certification to the state of the request for the actual seat to be filled. The court administrator and the court administrative judge, Judge Dwyer and Ms. Plank, have confirmed to me personally in the last 2 days that there will not be a similar request this year. It will not go to the General Assembly next year. Commissioner Myers knows well that nothing happens unless it gets presented to the General Assembly. It will not be presented. That courtroom is not needed until at least the year following the year. And as John can tell you, the state is not too quick at actually filling these judicial vacancies because they use it as a budget maker, and it works for them. The very earliest you're going to see it'll be 2 years from right now, and that assumes an awful lot of positive things on that side. I'd like to say we don't want to tell you your business, but you're telling us our business here. This is what we do. We want to promote voting. We want to promote the purpose of what we do as an office. And frankly, we don't want our staff having to get out of their cars to the hoots and catcalls and come on babies that you get when you park out there. This is a bad solution made in haste, and we strongly encourage you not to take us in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments, Commissioner?
I want to say, that's fine, you know. I guess from our standpoint, from my standpoint, I thought that when you look at the numbers over a 20-year period of time, irregardless of where that $65,000 a year was spent, whether it's Macy's or somewhere else, for 20 years, that's probably the most efficient means of spending money, meaning the rent. Of course, they were going to do snow removal and everything. But we also sit here as elected officials, and we have to listen to the citizens. And the citizens, there was no one saying go to Macy's. We heard I don't know about the others, but the number of calls and emails that I got that said anywhere else, but we don't want to go to Macy's. Don't go out to the Valley Mall. Why, I don't know, but that's why I listened to this after the fact. So, yeah, hey, this is a work in progress. It ain't going to happen. I got it. Let's go back to the drawing board and let's listen. We want to listen to you. We want to work with you. And hopefully between staff and we can give this another go. But I think I know that from my standpoint, from the citizens saying that they don't want to go to the Valley Mall, I had to listen to them.
Well, as I said at the preface, we thought it was a great solution, but it doesn't really matter ultimately because you do have to make that decision. I would have liked for us to have had the opportunity when this negative comment came up, and I understand there were 3 citizens spoke at a budget hearing on this and raised objection. I would have liked for us to have true work session and an opportunity, maybe a public meeting, and see what the public actually feels about it and discuss it. I wish we'd had a chance to do that. We didn't because I know what you were trying to do. You're trying to get this thing done. After all, you thought we had to have it by next year. Listen, we've made when we did not get into new space, mall or any other, by this summer, we had no choice. We had to go secure alternate space for early voting for next year. We've already done that. We've already made arrangements. We've reserved Hager Hall for next year. We had to lock it up. We made a small deposit to lock it up. Had to be done. We were going to fail our state mandate otherwise. So that's what we have. And frankly, if we end up someplace else, a miracle occurs and tomorrow you give us a space that's ready right now. We could go in and we're in by the end of the year and all that. We'll use Hager Hall as our backup space, which we are required to have by state law. You know that. And that's always a big problem because the county doesn't usually have 2 buildings to give us, but they always figure out something to do.
But I agree with you. Don't let us just continue to give you suggestions what we think. I wish more dialogue prior to, and then we would have maybe more of a working solution.
We'd love to do that. We'd love to have a working session with the commissioners and talk this stuff through. Thank you.
Any other commissioners' comments, commissioners?
I think you bring up certainly some valid arguments of wanting to find a new location. I think it kind of sounds like maybe that's what we'll do. You're right. We're looking for a 20-year home, so we gotta get it right. You don't want to be moved in your first year. You realize that there's some pitfalls with that location, but you're there for the next 19 years. I think that's a good idea. Maybe if we can get a work session, if it's all of us and all of you, or maybe some of us and some of your board and maybe some of your election judges, since you know how the process works, and come up with more solutions. I do want to compliment the county staff for bringing creative offerings like that to us, like maybe a way we can use an existing building or a way we can partner with a private entity. I think that was a good exercise nonetheless. I guess the important thing is, can the election board stay where they are next year? I mean, we need to make sure that that's an okay thing. It sounds like the court isn't getting the new judge in the time frame that maybe we were thinking.
They will not. Here's how it works. Each county provides a certification to the state court administrator of their requirements and readiness to house and staff. That's a big buck for you guys out of your pocket. The new judge. While the judge has been authorized by the General Assembly, and I think that was in 13, I'm not sure, 13 or 14, it was authorized. It comes up every year. It doesn't end up in the kitty because the county doesn't certify it. The county has not certified it and will not certify it in 2017. Once certified, it goes to the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals, presently Judge Barbera. Judge Barbera then makes a decision as to what to request from the General Assembly, and it goes to the General Assembly in the following year's session. The General Assembly then votes to fund it or not to fund it. The earliest, because there will not be a certification, there is not a certification in 2017. If there is a certification in 2018, it could be considered at the 2019 General Assembly session. If placed in the budget and approved in the spring of 2019, the governor signs the bill, it becomes law, then they kick it over to the state court administrator to declare the vacancy, go through the process of getting applicants, and then they send down the nominations. And if the governor needs, and we saw this happen in Washington County in the 90s several times, if the governor needs to balance his budget and he's having problems filling holes, he sits like this on those nominations and saves a couple $100,000 for 6 or 8 months. And that's fine. That's the way it works. It's just the system. But I'm telling you, you won't have a courtroom need. You'll have an empty courtroom until late 2019 if you build it now. What I've just told you, I tell you as an officer of the court and as a representative of this board to you guys. I've spoken to everybody in the chain, and that's how it works. Sorry.
Let me bring some time in front of that. Is the Register of Wills needs to be relocated so that other work can happen. So it's not simply the court, but there is lead time required, and staff has done due diligence to get that lead time in place. Staff, we did meet, as suggested, the commissioner did meet with the Board of Elections about 6 weeks ago. The schedule was stated, and I have a schedule here that meets the requirements from what I'm told from staff to get you up and running when it needed to happen. Now, that's not to say that this isn't the right place for you. It's not to say that we must move forward with this place that you're uncomfortable with. However, it is to say that some facts are in place that need to be honored as far as lead time for the offices over there. Would like to talk to the court system. We do have a capital project that's necessary and in the budget for that system and that relocation over there. So before we step on any toes over there, we need to be sure that we're doing due diligence with the court. We did look at 6 sites, and I think, Roger, you're right. We've looked at this for a couple of years now. This isn't new or different. Staff who was in place before even. We've been back 2 or 3 years before that. I can remember meeting with Kay in a different position about this location. So, and I don't know, but I thought several years ago the request was to enlarge your location where you were out there at the Phoenix Color Building, to use that and expand that space.
Yes, at the time, Rob, when we had use of the administrative offices there to the north, we had for training and early voting. That worked out very well, but as you know, and we had met with the commissioners, yes, at that time, that's now the day reporting center. And so once that happened, it just really looked like that the whole facility was gearing more towards that type of organization or whatever, and with the detention center there. But yes, at one time, we could have more easily seen us moving there if it would have been the administrative areas.
So we have over $500,000 programmed here to go to this center for new space, HVAC, everything else that was requested in recent meetings up to last week even, separate entrance from day reporting, so forth and so on. That is not an antagonistic statement. That is a statement that says the staff here for the county has taken the direction given and the wishes by the election board to try to make this location work. Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So I think we owe applause to the staff that's tried to do the right thing. We do have six sites that have been looked at, reviewed, re-reviewed. The costs that we were looking at are substantially different. We can revisit this as suggested. if that's what's desired, and move forward. And that way we'll come out with the best decision. But I do want to stand up and say, it's not for lack of effort that we're in this position or lack of planning. I think you can all agree with that.
No, I wouldn't disagree in the slightest. The fact is that the members of the staff who are here, your staff who are here, who worked on this, they came to us, they asked us questions. Mm-hmm. We're fulsome with them. Tell us, how you would do this? What about if we tried that? That's as presented that we're going to end up, or very well may end up, at 101 Tandy. Nobody's sitting there going, we're not going to help you with it. Oh my God, we're here. We're all pulling with the same oar. And I do applaud the efforts of staff because it has been done in a very much expedited fashion. This is above my pay grade, but the other part of this is it's a budgeting issue for you guys. As a citizen, I got a little bit of an interest in that, but you're going to spend $65,000 a year.
Back to your quote, try things to make things work. Who's to say that the Dave Reporting Center is going to stay there? We're trying that. So, I'm just asking.
You're right. It may not. If it doesn't work, well, heck, then there's a whole building there. You can start thinking about it again. But remember, when we talked to you all about expanding our offices, that was 2 election cycles ago, 4 years ago. When we talked about that, your new jail was 15 years in the future on your budget, maybe closer to 20. Well, now 4 of those years have been used up. Jail population continues to expand. That's going to be a jail at some point.
Decreasing.
I'm sorry.
I thought the sheriff said it was decreasing.
I'm talking nationally. And as a result of some change policies from the Department of Justice, you can rest assured your prison populations are going to rise because they're talking about no longer moving away from non-incarceration for nonviolent drug offenders.
Okay, and then just another thought there. You said, and I'm only speaking for myself. I've never, ever taken the position where I'm telling your staff what to do, where to go, or anything like that. And that's why we're having these meetings, so we can continue dialogue and hopefully get to where the correct location, or what we think is the correct location. And if you go back to our senior center, and Mr. Barr's been on board the whole time. We tried to figure out where to move the senior center, and we thought we had a very solid location out at the college. And through discussions, conversations, just working together, we realized and then came up with a different plan. All of a sudden, the current senior center location became available. So then we did officially move, obviously, senior center down to the old armory there down by the golf course there. So that's worked out extremely well. So hopefully this is what's going to happen with our new election place. Through dialogue.
I hope that's the model. That would be great.
So,
listen, you all remember, how many times have you been down there for various items? You have to go in to do your check-in so you can be a candidate each year. If there's a close election, we had those recount sessions. Commissioner Myers, I remember when you threw the upset of all time, and back in 2002, we had the recount in a conference room that is smaller, I would say, than the total surface of the table in front of you guys. We need the space to do the job right. And it was a little heated in there, if you'll recall. We had a bunch of lawyers from Baltimore up. They wanted to fight with me. This is just what we do. We just need facilities to be able to do it, and we need facilities that promote voting. That's what we're here to do, promote voting. Thank you all. We appreciate your time.
And your recommendation of a work session, I think, is just outstanding.
Okay. We appreciate that. We'll take that then. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Yep. Have a good day.
I cleared them out.
Pleasant Valley Livestock LLC, CREP Easement. Mr. Boggs, how are you today?
Yeah, we have everything. Right here.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Doing well. How you doing? So this is the Pleasant Valley Livestock LLC Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program easement proposal. Shortly, the property is located there in Roarsville, Orsino Farmland, which is essentially right along Roarsville Road. The property itself is going to protect about 54 acres of woodland, 140 acres of crop and hay fields, and importantly, it'll buffer around 5,000 feet of streams, including a little Antietam Creek. The parcel itself will be protected by a CREP easement, but it's important to mention that this is going to be our first kind of combined easement. We're using two funding sources on this one. One will be CREP funding, the other will be Rural Legacy funding. This will serve to, protect the parcel in entirety, which is a new policy that DNR has instituted lately. They are now preferring to preserve entire parcels versus preferring preserving pieces of parcels. So this will also serve to encumber the remaining Rural Legacy funding from our FY17 grant. So it'll be nice to finish spending the rest of that money. In addition to all the protections, it also will extinguish all 7 development rights associated with the parcel, thereby preserving a pretty large swath of land that's contiguous to several other CREP, Rural Legacy, and MET easements in that general area. Just essentially increases the size of the block of preserved open space down around Roarsville. Since 2010, the state DNR has been funding the CREP easements. We've preserved over 600 acres of CREP easement land, several thousand acres of Rural Legacy land. It's funded by program open space funds and administered by DNR. For FY17, the way the CREP program works is if a landowner has a current CREP contract through the Farm Services Agency, then they can voluntarily apply for a CREP easement through DNR. And the CREP easements themselves are purchased on a property-by-property basis, so there's no grant funding. It's kind of piece by piece. For the Rural Legacy funding, obviously we get a grant every year from Rural Legacy, and as I mentioned, this will encumber the remaining FY17 Rural Legacy funding. Our motion our recommended motion would be to approve the Pleasant Valley Livestock CREP easement in a amount of $633,637.86 over 194.39 easement acres, and to adopt the accompanying ordinance. Any questions?
Commissioners, questions, thoughts? Motion to move forward is presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the recommended motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Boggs. Washington County Agritourism App, Leslie Hart. How are you, Ms. Hart?
I'm well, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It's a beautiful Tuesday outside, and it's not unbearably hot, so please get out and enjoy the weather. Today I'm here to talk about the Washington County Agritourism App. I just want to give you a little bit of history about the app. In the past, we've always developed a brochure that lists a majority of the farms that are in some type of service or provides a product or service to the community. This is our second run of this particular publication. I print it every 2 years. James, I have to give thank you to James Jenkins of the Public Relations Department. He and I had talked about this some time ago. This was his idea, and I have to say that this has just been an absolutely incredible rollout of the application. I do have to officially thank the Public Relations Department as well, Lauren Pogue and Katie Yoder, for making this and my job much easier because of the amount of effort that goes into creating an app such as this. It can be found under your apps setting. It's available for Apple and Android, and it's called Washington County Agritourism. This particular app has basically an endless life in the fact that we can really do a lot more promotions. There's a blog opportunity. It ties to Facebook, and it really gives us the opportunity to do a lot of the social media contacts seamlessly, effortlessly on our part, and really just connect with more consumers. The demographics behind this app, right now the top demographic, it's 24 to 35-year-olds are the people that are downloading the app the most, and then the second population is 54 to 65-year-olds. We're also finding that they're mostly women that are downloading the app, which tells me that they're looking for good local food, good local products. They're looking for ways to take their children onto farms. And just tell you, once we rolled out the app, we had some new ideas about further development of the app. So if somebody specifically wants red raspberries or black raspberries, the functionality is coming that they can search by that method versus just a farm who sells fruit. The other thing that I want to point out to you is that since we've rolled this out at the end of June, first part of July, we've had 216 downloads. This is a free app for the public. But here's the big number. We have had 5,700 people look on the app at the pages, specific pages. They're looking at farms. They're looking for very specific items. That is huge. I'm very, very tickled about that. Very, very proud of that as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Lauren for just a few minutes just to talk about how we continue to promote this app and what we hope for the future to reach more consumers with this app.
So when we rolled out the app, we were really looking to target not just our local residents and citizens who are looking to buy local, but we're also looking to really hit that Montgomery County down the I-270 corridor. So that's really where we've been kind of focusing a lot of our Facebook advertising, our digital media. We've had, I believe there's a very large billboard on Pennsylvania Avenue by the Sylvania building. We have that for about a month. It's a huge 24-foot by 24-foot billboard. And we tried to really wanted to roll this out during the Ag Expo and Fair, and I think that's part of the push. And if you see the preliminary numbers for the Ag Expo and Fair, I mean, they had 30,000 people for the entire week. So I mean, we're just continually being aggressive about our marketing with the app, and look to see many more downloads. On your handout I gave you, you'll see that most of our downloads do occur here in the city of Hagerstown. But, they're spending anywhere from 10 seconds to 10 minutes on the app, and they're browsing, and so it's a good tool to have in our back pocket, I think.
So thank you for the opportunity. Any questions?
Leslie, Lauren, thanks for the presentation.
You're welcome.
The member of the EDC had offered to send out flyers at their expense. Would this be able to be part of the
Yes.
push?
Yes.
Okay. And that was to 1,000?
Montgomery County residents.
1,000?
Yes.
Okay, great. So that's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And this will also be touted at Mako when you have some space down there, I assume?
Of course.
Yeah.
That's actually going to be one of our main goals and one of the main visual pieces that we'll have down there.
questions, comments, Commissioners? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity. Have a good day.
Airport Capital Improvements Budget Transfer, Mr. Ridenair, how are you today?
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning.
I came here in the morning, it's now afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Take a moment of your time this afternoon. I'm seeking approval for a budget amendment at the Airport Capital Improvements Program budget to establish two new projects, one for the Grove Farm demolition and one for the airport layout plan. The Federal Aviation Administration is requiring the airport, and has been for some time, to update our existing airport layout plan. So our airport layout plan basically is our development map and planning for the future. We have done 16 what they call pen and ink changes, which are basically, we talk to the FAA, we get changes done to that document, they approve it, send it back. We have gotten to the end of any changes, pen and ink wise, and they want a full document. The FAA has come up with new criteria for airport layout plans. So before we complete any additional projects other than what we already have on the horizon, we need to have a complete ALP update. That consists of updating the ALP, future projects and land acquisition for the airport, airspace analysis, which is an obstruction analysis for anything that may be in the landing paths of aircraft for all 4 runways. On and off airport land use proposals, Exhibit A sheet, which is our land ownership sheet to show all the land that's owned by the county for the airport, and then a master utility plan to show where all the utilities are for the airport. The amount of that transfer is $400,000. In 2016, the board approved the demolition of the Grove Farm after a long and tedious process of establishing the fact that we've gotten to the point for demolition. We thought we were originally going to be able to do that with little to no money. Little did we find out as part of the memorandum of agreement that we have with the Maryland Historic Trust, there's a considerable amount of money that will need to be spent from a historical standpoint before the farm is actually demolished. So we have a price now of about $600,000, which includes shovel tests, remote sensing and ground penetrating radar, sampling of topsoil, artifact recovery and documentation. They actually come in to do machine stripping of areas around the structures, looking for archaeological artifacts. There's a data recovery program, a data recovery documentation that has to be submitted to Maryland Historic Trust. There's a QA/QC program involved with this, and this price also includes the complete demolition, final grading, turn this back into basically to farmland. So we intend to transfer some monies from projects that we have in the current fiscal year budget, so there is no impact to our budget. I'm not requesting additional funding whatsoever. We're going to be transferring monies from existing projects in the FY18 budget year and CIP, and we anticipate grant funding in the amount of 90% from the FAA, 5% state share, and 5% local share to reimburse us for these expenses out of both of these programs. So at this point, unless you have any questions, that's my request today.
Any questions? Thoughts?
What are the projects that are being?
One of the projects is we have a terminal expansion project that we've had in the works for several years. Funding from the FAA is not on the near horizon, so we feel as though we have $600,000 in the budget for this year, so we feel we can bump that out for a couple years. And then the other one was a large environmental assessment project that we had originally planned on doing, but we won't need near that much money, so we're transferring some money from the environmental projects also over to this.
Okay, any other questions? If none, motion to move forward is presented.
Motion to move forward.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good
Good
luck.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Just keep dumping money in that grave fund.
Okay, a motion to go into, I think I covered, I didn't miss anything. Motion to go into closed session for reasons stated.